The purpose of this video is to show how we can deploy the OpenIAM stack to a Kubernetes cluster. For people interested in this kind of deployment, we have a project, an open source project on our Bitbucket called Kubernetes Docker Configuration. This project contains all of the necessary components required to deploy to a Kubernetes environment. And we support three types of environment. One is AWS, another is Google Cloud, and the third is an internal Kubernetes cluster, which can be private, public. It's just not AWS or Google Cloud. It can even be another cloud provider. So in this tutorial, we will be discussing how we can deploy to AWS. So let's get started. So the first step is to check out this project, which I have already done, and then switch to the necessary branch. I'm already on the latest production branch, so I'm going to set up the environment. And then I'm going to generate certificates. And these certificates allow communication into something called Vault, and Vault stores passwords. That way we're not exposing them in property files or anywhere else in plain text that a malicious user can use them. So then we're going to open up the project, and we see that one of the steps which is outlined in the README is to change this string to whatever cloud environment you're using. It could be Google Cloud, it could be Helm, which is a private Kubernetes cluster. But for this tutorial, we're going to deploy to AWS. So let's leave it at that. Run Terraform init. And then run Terraform, apply. And this step will take a while, approximately 25 minutes. 15 minutes of that is spent bringing up the AWS infrastructure, such as Elasticsearch, Redis, RDS, the actual Elastic Kubernetes service, and others that we use. So while we wait for that, let's go over just a few things that you can configure in the build. So we have a Terraform TFRs file, which allows you to configure basically everything in the build. One thing you can set is the region. You can set the number of servers in your Kubernetes cluster. You can set the replica count of each component, each custom component that we deploy. You can configure the database that you would like as the backend. So we support MariaDB, Postgres, Oracle, and MS SQL in AWS, MariaDB and Postgres in Google Cloud. And if you're deploying to a custom environment, it can be any one of these four. So username, password settings, you can configure those. Oracle requires some more configuration. And then there is configuration for Google and for AWS. For Redis, we support configurations related to the instance class. Same for RDS, we also support the instance class setting. So if you would like to scale this up to large, you're free to do that. Same for Elasticsearch. And finally, by default in AWS, we provide this type of machine type for the EKS cluster, but you're free to make this larger as you see fit. This default configuration is approximately 32 gigs and 8 virtual CPUs. So let's wait for this to finish. It will take a while. You can see the infrastructure has been created and Terraform is finished running. So let's check AWS and see what was created. So we can see we have run one running instance, and that's our EKS server. We can see that an EKS cluster has been created. And we see that our RDS instance, which is MariaDB, has also been created. So let's take a look at what pods are running. We can see that things are initializing and coming up. So let's wait for them to come up. So as you can see, all the pods have come up. And let's take a look at the services. So this is now our AWS endpoint. Let's hit it. Let's skip this SSL error. The certificate was self-generated. Let's log in as a default user. Change the password. Answer the challenge response questions. set up the main content provider. Most of these fields are pre-populated with what we need. And we're done. You now have an OpenIAM instance deployed to a Kubernetes cluster in AWS.